Hey Reddit, this is going to be one of the hardest things I've ever had to share, but I need advice. I honestly don't know how to deal with what happened at my cousin's wedding last weekend. I don't know if I'm overreacting or if this is something I can ever come back from. I'm 32, and I've been married to my wife, Megan, for 5 years. We met in college, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty solid relationship. We don't have kids yet, but we've been talking about starting a family soon. We've had our ups and downs, but nothing that ever felt like it couldn't be worked through. Until last weekend. It all started when my cousin, Sarah, got married. It was supposed to be a beautiful day, and everyone was excited to be together as a family. Megan and I arrived early to the wedding venue, and were mingling with family members, greeting everyone, and just enjoying the pre-wedding atmosphere. Megan was as charming as usual, greeting family members, chatting with my aunts, and even helping Sarah with last-minute wedding details. It was all pretty typical for her. She's always been the life of the party, very social and friendly with everyone. However, I noticed that Megan had been acting a little distant the past few months. She's been working late a lot, and when she gets home, she's tired, almost like she's somewhere else. We'd still spend time together on the weekends, but it felt like we weren't as close as we used to be. I tried to talk to her about it, but she would always brush it off. It's just work stress, she'd say. And because I loved her, I didn't press too hard. But the doubts had started to creep in. Back to the wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful, and Megan seemed to be her usual self, laughing, joking, and enjoying the day with everyone. I didn't think anything was out of the ordinary. That is, until the reception. After dinner, everyone was dancing, drinking, and just having a good time. I was talking to some old friends of mine near the bar when I saw Megan chatting with a man I didn't recognize. It wasn't unusual for her to meet new people, especially at a big event like this, but I had never seen this guy before. I kept an eye on them from across the room, and they were standing close together, laughing, and clearly enjoying each other's company. At first, I thought maybe he was a friend of Sarah's, or maybe someone Megan had met through work. But something about the way they were talking, something about the way they were too comfortable with each other felt wrong. They were too close, too familiar. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. So, I did what any husband would do when they start feeling suspicious. I texted Megan. Hey, who's that guy you're talking to? I didn't get a response right away. Instead, I saw Megan glance down at her phone, then back at the guy. She smiled, but then quickly excused herself and headed to the bathroom. I thought, okay, maybe it's just my imagination. It's a big wedding, and she's probably just talking to someone new. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more going on. A few minutes later, as I was still standing near the bar, I saw the same man again, this time walking toward the exit. But he didn't leave. He paused at the door, waiting for something. My curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to follow him quietly, trying not to make it obvious. That's when I saw him meet Megan near the back entrance of the venue, just outside the reception hall. And, to my shock, they hugged each other. But this wasn't a friendly hug. It was intimate. The way he held her close to him, the way she rested her head on his shoulder, it looked like something out of a movie. My heart sank, and my stomach churned. At that moment, I knew. I didn't need confirmation. I didn't need to ask what was going on. I knew something had been happening between them. I didn't know for how long, but it didn't matter. I felt betrayed. I quickly retreated to a quiet corner, trying to process what I had just seen. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. How could Megan do this to me? Why didn't I see the signs before? I could feel the anger and confusion building up inside me, and for the first time in years, I didn't know how to look at her. The woman I trusted, the woman I loved, had been lying to me. Just as I was about to go confront her, I saw Megan coming back into the reception hall, walking quickly toward the dance floor. She looked flustered, but before I could approach her, the man from outside walked back into the reception too. I had to act quickly. I didn't know what to say, but I had to know the truth. I could feel my heart racing in my chest as I watched Megan return to the reception, still flustered, her face flushed. The man, who I now knew was the source of all my suspicions, was nowhere to be seen, but the sight of her walking back into the room, so unaware of what I had just seen, made my blood boil. I stood frozen for a moment, not knowing whether I should confront her right there or wait for a better moment. I could feel the anger and hurt building inside me like a tidal wave, and I had no idea how I was going to hold it in. Everything in me screamed to confront her, to demand answers immediately. But as I watched her, I tried to keep my composure. I took a deep breath and walked toward the back of the room where Megan was standing by the bar, chatting with a few other family members. I could hear snippets of her conversation, but all I could focus on was the image of her and that man, her lover, holding each other outside. How had I missed this? How had she kept this from me for so long? I approached her slowly, trying to act normal, though every fiber of my being was screaming to just confront her. Megan turned around and smiled at me, looking relieved that I was finally coming over. "Daniel, there you are," she said, her voice light. "I thought you were going to disappear for the rest of the night. Are you having fun?" I looked at her, and for a split second, I wondered how someone who could smile like that could also hide something so painful from me. I had always trusted her, loved her, and now I was seeing a side of her that felt completely unfamiliar. "Megan," I said, my voice a little shakier than I intended. "We need to talk." Her smile faltered, and she seemed to pick up on my tone. She glanced at me, then around the room, probably trying to gauge whether I was about to make a scene. She gave a nervous laugh. "Talk? What's wrong?" she asked, suddenly looking concerned, her tone changing immediately. I glanced around the room, noticing the other people she was talking to before, and motioned for her to follow me. I needed us to be alone. We couldn't have this conversation in front of everyone. "Let's step outside," I said, my voice still steady but with an edge I couldn't control. She hesitated, her face slightly creased with confusion, but she followed me outside without protest. We stood near the back entrance, away from the crowd, the sounds of the wedding reception just faintly echoing in the background. "Megan, what the hell was that?" I said, my voice louder now, the anger bubbling to the surface. I saw you hugging that man, the one you were talking to earlier. And it wasn't just a friendly hug, Megan. You looked comfortable with him, like you've done this before." Her eyes widened in shock, and I could see the color drain from her face. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She was trying to come up with something, but I didn't want to hear excuses. I needed the truth. "Who is he, Megan?" I demanded, my voice rising. "What's going on?" Megan took a deep breath, and I could see her hands trembling as she tried to steady herself. She finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not what you think, Daniel," she said, tears starting to form in her eyes. "Please, let me explain." I shook my head, not able to hold back the frustration anymore. "Explain what?" "Explain why you've been hiding this from me? Explain why you've been acting so distant and then hugging some guy like that in secret? Explain why you've been lying to me." "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't want you to find out like this, Daniel. I've been seeing him. His name is Adam. He's someone I met through work, and it just happened. I never planned for it to go this far, and I regret it every single day." Her confession hit me like a punch to the gut. Adam? Someone from her work? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For months, I had been sensing something was wrong, but I never imagined this. She was seeing someone else, and I had been completely in the dark. "Are you serious?" I asked, the words coming out barely above a whisper. "You've been having an affair behind my back? And all this time, you've been pretending everything was fine? Megan, how could you do this to me?" She started crying now, her body shaking as the reality of what she had done sank in. "I never wanted to hurt you," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Daniel. I didn't know how to tell you. I've been so ashamed, and I thought I could stop it before it got out of hand, but I couldn't. And now everything is ruined, and I don't know what to do." I felt sick. I couldn't look at her. The woman I had trusted with my whole heart was standing in front of me, apologizing for an affair that she had kept secret for months. "You don't know what to do?" I said bitterly. "You've already done it, Megan. You've already ruined everything. How am I supposed to trust you again? How am I supposed to look at you the same way when you've been lying to me? I understand if you hate me right now, Daniel," she whispered, taking a step toward me, but I stepped back, not wanting her near me. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I am so sorry. I love you, and I never meant for this to happen." The words felt empty. The love I thought we shared felt distant now, shattered by the betrayal. I couldn't wrap my head around the truth. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind to the lies she'd been telling me? The following days after the confrontation with Megan felt like a blur. I didn't know what to do with myself. I spent the first night at a friend's place, trying to process everything. My mind couldn't seem to stop racing. I kept asking myself how this happened. How had I been so oblivious to what was going on right under my nose? I loved Megan. We built a life together. We talked about having children one day, about growing old together. And now, everything felt like it was collapsing. Megan kept texting me, calling me, apologizing. but I couldn't bring myself to respond. What was there to say? Every message she sent only reminded me of the pain, the lies. I couldn't ignore it any longer. She had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I couldn't think straight. I didn't know if I was ready to confront her again, let alone figure out what the next step would be. The following day, I returned to our house to grab some things. I couldn't stay at my friend's place for much longer. It felt like I was running away from the problem. I needed to face it head on, even though I wasn't sure what facing it meant. When I walked through the door, I saw Megan sitting on the couch, her face tear-streaked and blotchy from crying. She looked up when I walked in, but she didn't move. She didn't speak at first. It was like we were two strangers in the same room. "I've been calling you," she said quietly, almost pleading. "Daniel, please. I can't lose you. I'm so sorry for what I've done. Please, just let me explain." I couldn't help it. The anger boiled up inside me, and for the first time, I snapped. "Explain what, Megan? How you've been lying to me for months. How you've been seeing someone else behind my back, and I had no idea. What's there to explain?" She stood up then, her hands shaking. "I don't want to lose you, Daniel. I know I've made the biggest mistake of my life, but I swear, I never wanted this to happen. I wasn't thinking straight. I got caught up in things, and I let it go too far. I trusted you," I said, my voice trembling. "I trusted you more than anything. And you did this. How am I supposed to believe you now? How am I supposed to trust you again?" Megan reached out for me, but I backed away, not wanting her to touch me. "I love you," she whispered. "I want to fix this. Please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything to make it right." I felt numb. I couldn't even look at her without seeing images of her with Adam. The thought of it, of her being with another man, made me sick to my stomach. "I need space, Megan. I can't do this right now," I said, barely able to choke the words out. She nodded slowly, but the look of devastation on her face made it impossible to walk away without feeling like I was tearing apart not just our marriage but her as well. But I couldn't stay. Not now. I didn't even know who she was anymore. The next few days were a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and overwhelming sadness. Megan kept trying to reach me, texting, calling, leaving messages. But I couldn't find it in myself to respond. I needed time to think, to figure out what I wanted, and to process everything that had happened. I couldn't even look at her without feeling betrayed. I spent a lot of time talking to friends and family, trying to get their perspective. Some of them were shocked by Megan's actions. Others were supportive and reminded me of all the good things we'd built together. But none of them could give me the one thing I needed most: clarity. A week passed before I finally spoke to Megan again. I had arranged to meet her at a coffee shop. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew that I couldn't keep avoiding her forever. We needed to talk about what had happened. When I saw her sitting at a table near the window, her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. I couldn't help but feel a wave of sympathy for her, even though my anger still simmered just beneath the surface. "I'm sorry for everything, Daniel," she said, her voice shaky. "I know I've hurt you beyond repair. I can't take back what I did, but I want to make it right. I'll do anything. Just tell me what you need." I sat down across from her, still feeling numb. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know if I could forgive her or if I even wanted to try. "I need to know the truth," I said. "How long has this been going on? How serious is it?" Megan's face turned pale, and she looked down at the table, taking a deep breath. "It started about 6 months ago. At first, it was just texting. I didn't mean for it to go further, but things escalated. I've been seeing Adam for about 3 months now, and I know it's wrong. I know it's unforgivable. But I was lonely. I didn't feel like you were there for me, and when I met him, it felt like I could finally be seen. I could feel my chest tighten with rage, but I stayed calm, forcing myself to listen. So, you were unhappy with me, and instead of talking to me about it, you decided to cheat? That's your explanation." "I don't have an excuse, Daniel," Megan said, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know what I was thinking. I was selfish, and I ruined everything. But I love you, and I want to fix this. Please, give me the chance." I was quiet for a long time, just staring at her. I had no idea how to move forward. Could I forgive her? Could I rebuild this relationship after everything that had happened? "I don't know if I can do that, Megan," I said, the words feeling heavy. "I'm not sure if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if we can ever go back to the way we were." I left the coffee shop with more questions than answers. Megan's tears and her pleading didn't change the facts. She had betrayed me. She had gone behind my back and started a secret relationship with another man. And while I understood that people make mistakes, This was a mistake that I didn't know if I could come back from. For the next few days, I kept to myself, trying to make sense of everything. I thought about the good moments we had, our trips, the time we spent building a life together, and it made the betrayal feel even worse. How could the woman I loved betray me like this? I decided I needed to talk to someone impartial, someone who wasn't involved in the situation but could help me figure out what to do next. I reached out to a therapist who specialized in relationships. I wasn't sure if therapy would help, but I was willing to try anything at that point. The decision to go to therapy wasn't an easy one, but I knew I couldn't keep wrestling with my emotions on my own. After everything that had happened, it felt like there were too many unresolved questions, too much anger, hurt, and confusion that I couldn't work through by myself. So, I made an appointment for Megan and me to attend couples therapy. The first session was eye-opening, though it didn't bring the immediate relief I was hoping for. Megan and I sat across from the therapist, trying to talk through our issues, but there was a lot of tension in the room. Megan seemed genuinely remorseful, but I could see the weight of her guilt hanging over her. She kept looking at me, her eyes filled with pain and regret, but all I could focus on was the fact that she had broken my trust in the most profound way. I don't know if I can fix this, Daniel, Megan admitted during the session. I've made a huge mistake, and I know it's going to take time. But I want to be here. I want to try. I love you, and I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild what I've destroyed. The therapist, a calm, middle-aged woman named Dr. Roberts, looked at both of us thoughtfully. Megan, it's clear that you're committed to working through this, but Daniel, you're the one who has to decide whether you can move forward. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and it takes time to rebuild. How are you feeling, Daniel? I looked down at my hands, my mind swirling with everything I had been carrying. I wanted to believe that Megan could change. I wanted to believe that we could rebuild our relationship, but the truth was that I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way. The image of her with Adam, the secrecy, the lies, it all kept playing in my head. I don't know if I can do it, I said quietly, my voice breaking. I keep asking myself if I can ever trust you again. Every time I think about moving forward, I just see you with him. I'm not sure how to get past that. Megan reached across the table, her hand trembling as she touched mine. Daniel, I know I've hurt you, and I'll never forgive myself for that. But I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy, I'll be open, I'll do whatever it takes. Just please, don't give up on us yet. Please. I pulled my hand away gently, not out of anger, but because I needed space. The pain was still too fresh, too raw, and no amount of promises could erase the hurt I felt. I don't know if I can forgive you, Megan, I said, shaking my head. I keep wondering if I'm even capable of trusting you again. I keep wondering if this is something that can ever be fixed. I'm just lost. Dr. Roberts nodded. These are difficult emotions, Daniel, and they need to be processed. It's important to understand that healing doesn't happen overnight. Megan, your commitment to working through this is a positive sign, but it's up to Daniel to decide when, and if he's ready to move forward. As the weeks passed, Megan and I continued attending therapy. Each session felt like a step forward and a step back at the same time. Megan was doing everything she could to show me that she was serious about fixing things. She was open, honest, and transparent in a way she hadn't been before. She gave me access to her phone, made an effort to include me in her plans, and tried to rebuild the emotional intimacy we had lost. But no matter what she did, the doubt still lingered in my mind. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman who had lied to me. Every time we spent time together, I kept asking myself if I could ever forget what had happened. I started distancing myself emotionally. I told myself that I needed time, but a part of me knew that I was protecting myself from getting hurt again. I wasn't sure if I could go through life with the constant fear that Megan might betray me again. The walls I had built up around my heart felt like the only thing keeping me from completely breaking. Megan noticed the change. She tried harder, but I could see the frustration and sadness in her eyes. I could feel her wanting me to let my guard down, wanting me to believe that things could be fixed. But I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure if I ever would be. One night, we sat down together after another long day. Megan had made us dinner, but neither of us had the appetite to eat. The tension between us was thick, and I could tell that she was on the verge of saying something important. Daniel, she started, her voice quiet. I don't want to keep asking you to forgive me. I know it's not something you can do right now, and I know I've hurt you in ways I can't undo. But I need to know what's going on in your mind. I need to know if we have a chance. I looked at her for a long moment, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. I don't know, Megan, I finally said. I don't know if we have a chance. I don't know if I can move past this. I wish I could give you an answer, but I don't know. Her face fell, and I could see the hurt in her eyes, but I also saw something else, resignation. She had been waiting for me to make a decision, but I didn't have one to give her. I couldn't promise her anything. And maybe that was the hardest part for both of us. Days turned into weeks, and the emotional roller coaster didn't get easier. Megan kept doing the work, but my heart wasn't fully in it. I had distanced myself from her more and more, unsure of what to do. We were living in a state of limbo, a relationship without a clear future. I had become emotionally numb, caught between my love for her and the pain of the betrayal. Then, one evening, I came home from work to find Megan sitting on the couch, holding a small box in her hands. She had tears in her eyes when I walked in, and the weight of her gaze made my heart skip a beat. "I can't keep doing this, Daniel," she said softly. "I can't keep living in uncertainty. I love you, and I'll never stop loving you. But I need to know if you can ever forgive me. I need to know if you're willing to try, or if we're done." I stood there, the weight of her words crashing down on me. I knew the decision I had to make. It wasn't just about forgiving her. It was about whether I could ever trust her again, and whether I was willing to try to rebuild something from the wreckage. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Megan," I said quietly, the words heavy with sadness. "But I need time to figure it out. I need time to decide if this is something I can move forward from. And I don't know if I ever will." It's been a few weeks since that conversation with Megan. The weight of uncertainty has only grown heavier. Megan has been truly trying, to show me that she's committed to fixing what she broke. She's been patient, open, and more willing than ever to communicate. But despite all of her efforts, I still can't seem to get past the hurt. The pain of betrayal lingers, and every time I look at her, I can't help but think of what happened. We've had some good days, small moments where I feel like we're making progress. But those moments are fleeting. For every one step forward, it feels like we take 2 steps back. The question of whether I can ever forgive her still hangs in the air, unanswered. Megan's been asking me every day if I'm okay, if I've made up my mind. But how do you make a decision like that? How do you choose between your love for someone and the reality that they've broken your trust in the most devastating way? I've been avoiding talking to her about it. I've been avoiding the big decision because, quite frankly, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if there's a way back from this, and I'm scared of the answer. What if I forgive her, and it's never the same? What if I don't forgive her, and I lose everything we had? I've been spending a lot of time reflecting, alone, thinking about our relationship, about the good moments, about everything we built. I've been asking myself if I'm willing to throw it all away, or if we can somehow rebuild. But every time I get close to an answer, I second-guess myself. Tonight, Megan and I had another talk. I knew it was coming. She had asked for it, and I knew that if I didn't give her an answer now, it would just keep eating at both of us. We sat down together in the living room, the same way we have many times before over the past few weeks. But tonight felt different, heavier. We both knew what was coming. "Daniel," she said softly, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. "I need to know. I can't keep waiting for something that might never happen. Please, tell me what you're thinking." I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of clarity. This wasn't just about whether or not I could forgive her. This was about my own peace of mind, my own future, and what I truly needed. I had been avoiding the truth for so long, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending. "Megan," I started, my voice thick with emotion. "I've been trying so hard to figure this out. I've been trying to figure out if I can forgive you, if we can move past this. But I don't know if I can. The pain is still so fresh, and I can't shake the feeling that things will never be the same again." Her face crumpled, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. She reached out for my hand, but I couldn't bring myself to take it. "I know," she whispered. "I know I've hurt you beyond words, and I can't take it back. But Daniel, I love you. I need you. I don't know what else to do." I could see her tears falling, and for a moment, I felt the pain of it all wash over me. I had loved Megan for so long, but now I wasn't sure if I even knew who she was anymore. I didn't know if I could keep living with this doubt, with this fear that she would hurt me again. "I don't know if I'm the same person anymore, Megan," I said, struggling to hold back my own tears. "I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I did before. And I don't know if I can keep living in this uncertainty. It's tearing me apart." She nodded slowly, her face pale with understanding. "I get it, Daniel. I do. And I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. I don't expect everything to be okay right away. But please know that I will never stop trying. I'll spend the rest of my life showing you that I can be the person you deserve. But if you don't want that, if you don't want to try anymore, I'll understand. I just need to know what you want, I looked at her, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. The decision felt too heavy, too final. I didn't want to hurt her, but I also couldn't keep living in this emotional limbo. I don't know what I want, I finally said, my voice cracking. I don't know if I can move past this, Megan. I don't know if I can keep living with the doubt and the hurt. She nodded, tears still flowing down her face. I understand. I'll give you the space you need. But please know that I will always love you. I'll be here, waiting for you. As she walked away to her bedroom, I stayed on the couch, feeling completely lost. The decision was now in my hands, but I didn't know if I could make it. I didn't know what the future held, but I did know one thing. This was the hardest thing I had ever had to do. It's been a few days since the conversation with Megan, and I've been wrestling with myself, trying to come to some sort of conclusion. I've thought about it every moment I've been awake. I've replayed every word we've said to each other, every good memory, every hurtful moment. It's like my mind is stuck in a loop, and I can't find a way out. I've spent more time alone than I ever have, processing everything. I've reached out to friends and family, heard their advice, and reflected on what they've said. Some of them say I should walk away, move on, rebuild my life. Others say that forgiveness takes time, and that Megan's willingness to work on things means something. But no one can answer the question that haunts me: can I forgive her? Megan has been giving me the space I asked for. She's texted a few times, saying she's here if I need her. I know she's waiting for me to make a decision, and I feel the weight of it every time I think about her. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I could trust, has betrayed me. I've never felt so conflicted in my entire life. It's hard to put into words, but I feel like I'm stuck between two versions of my life, the one I had with Megan, which I thought was solid, and the one where I walk away from her and try to start over. Neither option feels right, but I know I can't keep living in this emotional limbo. I need to make a choice for my own sanity. So, I called Megan. I told her we needed to meet. I knew that I couldn't make a decision without talking to her one last time, but I also knew that this meeting could very well be the end of everything. We met at a small park not far from our home. It's a place we used to go when we first started dating. It used to be filled with memories of our first walks, our first talks about our future together. Now, it felt like a strange, distant reminder of everything that was once simple. When Megan saw me, she didn't look as hopeful as she had before. She looked tired, worn down. The weeks of uncertainty had clearly taken a toll on her, but I could see that she was still holding on to hope. Hope that I would choose her. Hope that we could fix things. "Daniel," she said, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "Thank you for meeting me. I know it's been hard, and I know you've been struggling, but I need to know what's going on in your mind. I need to know if we have a chance, if you think we can move forward." I looked at her, feeling my heart ache. She was still the woman I loved, but I didn't know if I could ever feel the same about her again. The betrayal had cut so deep that it felt impossible to erase the pain. I had tried to ignore it, to move past it, but it kept coming back. "Megan," I started, my voice shaking. "I've been thinking about this every single day. I've been thinking about whether I can forgive you, whether we can move forward, but the truth is, I don't know. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. The hurt is still so fresh, and every time I think about you with him, it feels like a weight I can't carry." Her eyes welled up with tears as she reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. I couldn't let myself be swayed by her pain right now. I needed to make the right decision for me. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I can't take back what I did. I wish I could. I wish I could undo the hurt, but I can't," Megan whispered, her voice barely audible. "But I'm not giving up on us. I'll keep fighting for us, if you'll give me the chance. I love you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." "I don't know if I can keep doing this," I said, the words coming out harsher than I intended. "I don't know if I can move past the lies. I don't know if I can keep living with the doubt that you might hurt me again." There was silence between us for a few long moments. I felt like I was being torn in two, between the love I still had for her and the pain of her betrayal. My mind kept spinning, and I realized that I had to make the decision right then, no matter how hard it was. "Megan," I finally said, swallowing hard. "I've thought about it long and hard, and I don't think I can do it. I can't live in this uncertainty anymore. I can't keep trying to rebuild something that's already broken. The trust we had is gone, and I don't know if I can ever get it back." Her face crumpled, and I could see her heart breaking in front of me. I knew how much this hurt her, but I also knew that I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. I had to be honest with myself, even if it meant hurting her. "I'm sorry, Megan," I said softly, my voice breaking. "I love you, but I don't think we can move forward. I think we need to go our separate ways."